Alright guys, TacticalRab back again today. Hope you're enjoying your day so far, and Doug Censor Martin has had enough, coming at the throats of everyone in the amateur scene. Parasite, Aches of course, getting blasted these last 24 hours or so, and well yes, there's been some responses on either side, certainly some heated tensions in the amateur scene with the GAs coming into effect, with all sorts of stuff happening this past week or so, with Censor getting dropped off his team, Parasite then getting dropped off his team, Doug Censor Martin wanting to team with Parasite, that didn't work out, and well, certainly some back and forth discussion here, in addition to Aches coming into the mix, and Censor, as we talked about a couple of weeks ago, still believes he is pretty trash as he was screwing them last night. Intrigued to hear your thoughts on this stuff in the comment section below. Like if you guys enjoyed the video, subscribe if you are new. As always, I'd greatly appreciate it. It really helps out the channel. Thank you very much indeed for doing that. This came out yesterday then from Parasite. New squad, Decimate, Draza, Emery's, and Coach Gorgo Knight, as we talked about yesterday. That's one of the teams we're going to be talking about today. The other team is Morks, of course, recently dropped off the built by Gamers Squad, streaming scrims with Lacefield, Aches, and Noisy. So yeah, that's another pretty exciting team to keep your eyes on as well. And then you've got the, well, Triumph Gaming Squad, where Felony looks like he's gone for Davie coming into the team alongside General, Standy, and Royalty. And then Center's new team is Brack, Hunt, and Apoc. So he was kind of keen to get onto Parasite's team. That, well, hasn't worked out. As you can see, this is what Parasite is rocking with as it stands right now. And, well, the Fellow thing is pretty entertaining as well, because as Standy says, after all we've been through teaming with Fellow, he now, he now unfollowed him on Twitter. So certainly always some drama in the amateur scene. It never seems to ever go away, which of course is entertaining to discuss here on the channel. And as Spacely says in regards to Aches, how does Aches have a Nissan GTR and is still late to scrims? Absolute grandpa. So yeah, was on the phone about that GTR actually. But yeah, this is where it really kicks off yesterday. So the sleeves are off, Censor on his thoughts on the GAs and well, Parasite's running effectively the amateur scrim chat and well, deciding what the GAs are. So he's discussing how there was like a poll that went on where Censor was discussing, okay, what should we do exactly about these GAs, and Haggy kind of as running the TeamSpeak, as the owner of the TeamSpeak, who kind of gets to make the executive decisions on what happens in the amateur side. I suppose he's been around the community for a number of years. He's played with pretty much everyone in the amateur scene, and he's kind of considered the leader of the scrim chat and the TeamSpeak and this type of stuff. He oftentimes gets to make that kind of executive decision, and Censor isn't too happy about how that went, and also kind of probably frustrated that Parasite decided not to team with him a few days ago. And there was certainly a lot of back and forth going on there, with Parasite saying and stuff that he never wants to team with Doug, and well, Censor obviously kind of being keen because he didn't have a team after getting dropped off Z Squad, and well, now that pent-up frustration maybe is coming back in force, as Center's talking about the GAs, and well, saying how Parasite nobody really cares about what you think.
He's the one making GAs. He should be the last person doing it. It should be someone who's unbiased and someone who just has a level head on their shoulders, not someone who just wants to think for themselves. Like, I don't know. I made a poll voting for the pro GAs, outvoted the amateur GAs, and Haggy's like, we don't care about that poll. Bitch, 30 people in this chat care about the poll, and I just posted it 2 minutes ago. Obviously, people care if they're voting for it. Like, you don't matter, Chris. Like, you're not that important.
So not one to be outdone, Parasite comes back. Doug is literally capping. The top 12 teams had a representative from their roster vote on the GAs, which ended up in the AK, among other things, being GA'd until last night's event, which resulted on us just using the CDL GAs, the Pro GAs, because the ones we agreed to, besides the ones we agreed to for Search and Destroy. So, well, that's what Parasite says for his side of the story. And Parasite goes on to say that Doug's said poll was completely actually irrelevant that he was talking about there, because there was multiple uneven representatives from a multitude of teams in the scrim chat. We held votes in a separate chat with the top teams where you weren't included because of your seed. Not that it mattered. The votes were, well, heavily favoured, as he says. And also he's talking about the RAM last year in Call of Duty Modern Warfare. It wasn't GA'd. People tried to get rid of it as soon as I saw success with it, which I suppose you could argue is true, which was 3 events after I started using it right before the Amateur World Championship. The reason it didn't go through is because this was blatant targeting, pointless drama, when we are just using the Pro GAs anyway. So certainly a bit of a back and forth here. And then Censor comes out with this at Parasite. This is like the Tfue James Charles thing. And well, Photoshop Center's face here, Parasite's face here. Pretty entertaining. It honestly would be a good thumbnail if it was slightly higher quality. But we all know Censor and his jet skis are kind of 2 peas in a pod. And as Parasite continues with, I think Doug Censor Martin may have an obsession with me. And there was also the discussion about Aches. Maybe I'll show a clip for you guys on screen of him, well, talking about how Aches is pretty trash. He was playing them in scrims last night. Aches playing on Raid, of course, Raid Hardpoint. I think it was Raid Hardpoint, Raid Control, one of the two. And well, Doug's talking about how Aches had a 0.7 KD. Obviously, you can see it's 25 and 28, but I think Doug was trying to do a calculation as to how many kills he would actually have in that instance. And anyway, I'll play the clip. Pretty entertaining stuff. We talked about this a while ago. The drama between Censor and Aches, saying that like he doesn't really want to try, and well, all this type of stuff.
Okay. Because like I feel like the guy who pinches mid that guy shouldn't even push. Like, that guy should just sit there and pretty much like hold.
Wait, is Pat really negative? He's really negative with like the least damage in the fucking lobby using an AR on a map he's played for 10 years? He's played this map for 10 years and he dropped like a 0.7 KD on a map that he has played for 10 years? Washed, bro. Straight up washed. Holy dude. God damn.
Sound microphone activated.
So despite Censor being in a difficult position right now, and not maybe with the best team in theory, but certainly teaming with Bracker, which is honestly one of the best players he probably could have been teaming with from the amateur side. A lot of professional players would say he plays for kills a little bit too much, he's not exactly a team player, but let's not forget, Bracker was a very talented player, and honestly was one of the breakout players of the entire year in Call of Duty Black Ops 4, right? Like, this guy on the Midnight Esports team right at the start of the season was considered like a top 2, if not top 1 player on that squad alongside Envoy at the time, who's gone on to do spectacular things. Then of course Brack gets onto LG, does decent things on that squad the latter half of the season, then is stuck on Toronto Ultra's bench the entire season long. So maybe with Censor alongside him, they can actually get something done here. And as Censor says, never underestimate an underdog. Certainly going to be very exciting to see what Slug's team is able to do when they play up against Parasite, when they play up against Zed's team, for example, if they do manage to do so, and Axis team, of course, in the Challengers Cup at the start of January. That's certainly an exciting storyline to keep your guys' eyes on. And I thought this was honestly hilarious from EasyMax. So talking about this amateur chat that happens, well, apparently this happens every single day, and this is just like a normal day in the life of the amateur scrim chat and the kind of drama that goes on there behind the scenes. So as EasyMax says, the day starts, friendships are formed, teammates bond, players politely discuss stuff, teams are created, Doug and Parasite chat, here we go. Chaos ensues, GAs are discussed, everyone complains about the AK, Doug is kicked, GAs go haywire, so Doug is added back, the AK is complained about, Haggy gets kicked, Zinx now wakes up, who Haggy was talking about is kind of, well, maybe the right hand man of Haggy and some of this stuff, I don't know. He also has some, well, pretty significant opinions and sway in what happens in the chat. Moach with the T1 banter, then some GAs are made. One map of scrims happen, GAs are now undone. Racine that being blast, he's kicked. 92 other ins and outs, GAs are now remade. Doug and Parasite play a GB together, Doug and Parasite hate each other. Remade GBs are now unmade, essays are made about the meta, players argue, players make up, Doug is kicked, Doug is back in, Parasite's kicked, the unmade, remade GAs are now remade, Doug and Parasite go jet skiing as we see that image, the remade, unmade, remade GAs are now unmade, Paul hates raid, as we may look out tomorrow. That's one day of the amateur chat. So this kind of stuff happening every single day. And yeah, Doug and Parasite certainly having their fair share of back and forth right here. And the GAs all over the shop. Absolute chaos in the community right now. And well, certainly intrigued to hear your thoughts on all this stuff at this time of drama in the comment section below, because it's just never-ending entertainment in my opinion. Just to finish off the video, I wanted to talk briefly about some power rankings, because yesterday we talked about who OpTic Chicago consider to be their biggest threat right now. You guys seem to like it when I talk about scrim results, so I thought I'd just mention this real quick. Last night, the Tomja Higgins points out Los Angeles Thieves were scrimming against OpTic Gaming. I think it was like 4-3 to Los Angeles Thieves. Some people were saying that this checkmate hardpoint was, I think OpTic were like at 2-4-7 or something before Formal got scan and repair, so that was almost like an OpTic win. It was somewhat difficult to say. But yeah, pretty even scrim set as you can see, and it's somewhat difficult to split these teams up right now if you want to look at some power rankings. But yesterday, Nameless and Pac-Man came out with their first episode of the podcast for Season 3, and as they give right here, Nameless and Pac-Man give us their pre-season power ranks on the podcast. I wanted to look at exactly what they were. Of course, there's sometime in January we'll do like a proper pre-season power rankings and stuff like that, because, well, it's got to be done. I imagine when Paris actually does get announced, it's probably the better time to do it. But this is what Pac-Man's was. So Atlanta FaZe, Dallas Empire S tier, then OpTic Chicago, Los Angeles Thieves as A tier, then I've got the B tier of Florida Mutineers, Paris Legion, which pretty impressive to me that Paris get B tier given the fact that they haven't even announced their roster yet, right? Scraps, Classic, Aqua, and Fire 40 in that B tier supposedly. Then we've got the Minnesota Rocker, Clace's team, that being the New York Subliners. Then we've got Seattle here down in C tier actually, Toronto Ultra, London Royal Ravens, and then well, both of these guys have Los Angeles Guerrillas down here in the D tier, and Nameless even puts them in the F tier. So well, Nameless is a pretty similar rankings. Atlanta FaZe and Dallas Empire in that S tier. Then in the A tier, OpTic Chicago as well, but he drops Los Angeles Thieves down to the B tier alongside Seattle. So rating Seattle are significantly higher than Pac-Man decided to. But then again, well, Nameless had Seattle as like one of his top teams last year. That didn't work out too well. So maybe this year he's decided to give it another go, and hopefully it'll work out for the better this time around. Minnesota Rocker also in that B tier. Then he's got, well, actually Florida Mutineers down here in the C tier, which is pretty interesting given they've been looking pretty solid in scrims in my opinion. Ultra and Paris, and then Los Angeles Guerrillas also in the bottom tier. And well, Silly of course on the Los Angeles Guerrillas alongside Apathy, Vivid, and Assault. Not necessarily too happy with this one, as he says this could maybe make sense before the game even releases, but is there any kind of logic that goes behind these rankings? People have been scrimming every single day, some readily available info that could be gained from coaches or players, not only our team, but most of this list is absolute garbage. And well, as Crone says, CDL power ranks voted by pro players and coaches only, which I imagine will be happening at some point. Crone usually does his, and well, gets the pro players and the coaches to vote on them, and then kind of well, puts that into an order based on what they say. So you kind of have a ranking which is, well, unbiased, you could argue, in a sense, but as Silly saying, not necessarily too happy that ELGATO are at the bottom of the list, and I'm not really sure how their scrims have been going, so it's somewhat difficult to say exactly where they should end up, but I'm intrigued to hear your thoughts, of course, in the comment section below. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did enjoy it, I'd greatly appreciate a like on the video. Really helps out the YouTube algorithm know you enjoyed this content. Other people like you may enjoy this content as well, and help grow the competitive Call of Duty community. Thank you for watching as always, take care, and I will see you next time.